And again, depending on what you're wearing, what's showing. Now, if you are wearing, for instance, a Japanese outfit with the loose pants like that, that's not a noticeable area in your costume. So you don't have to worry about it so much. If, however, you are wearing a costume where the male has tights, there needs to be a bulge in the front. Or they're not going to think you're a guy.
Now let me talk about the flip side, which, literally. There is a thing called tucking. Which you
Ouch.
tuck. Now if you're not wearing something tight in the crotch, you don't have to. But if you are wearing something tight in the crotch, it's a giveaway other people don't want to see. So, but again, and there are plenty of websites you can look on, but it basically consists of tucking it back out of the way. I don't recommend duct tape for that.
For another thing, women tend to sit with their ankles crossed, or they'll sit with their feet apart and their knees together. I mean, just look at the front row and you can see, you know, different styles of women sitting. And I'd say 1, 2, 3. We've got 4 with their knees together, you know, and you almost do, so 5. That's a very common way for a woman to sit because it's part of the training you've had when you were younger. If you're wearing a skirt, you have your knees together so people don't see up your skirt. So it's one of those things that girls pick up when they're younger and don't even think about when they're older. Why do you sit that way?
Because it looks pretty.
And, you know, look at the way characters in anime are drawn. Characters in anime, anime, what an idea.
What is this?
Exaggerated. Which is why a lot of times when you look at pictures of the girls in anime, their knees are together, their toes are pointed in, but their feet are apart. It's to make them look cute.
And soft.
Another thing is women have a tendency to push their upper arms together. It emphasizes their chest. And most of the time when women do that, they don't even realize they're doing it. It gives them a little more cleavage, but it also makes them feel a little more secure because they're kind of hugging themselves. But, you know, there's all these subtle things going on, and the guys are sitting there going, wow, she's got cleavage. But it's one of those things that the woman may not even be aware they're doing, and the guy's like, oh, she's leading me on. You know, no, she's just holding herself closer together because she's cold or whatever.
Or nervous.
But yeah, or nervous. Like I said, there's lots of times when women are giving off a signal that a man interprets one way. Oh, she's flirting with me? No, you've made her nervous. That's why she's smiling at you and batting her eyes. It's because she can't look you in the eye because something about you's making her nervous. But that's not the way the guy that's making her nervous is necessarily going to interpret it. Go ahead.
So would you suggest like playing coy as a male to, you know, maybe pass as more female, you know, to give off those signals?
That's a tricky area. That's a tricky area because if you come across as I'm pretending, then people have a completely different reaction to it. It's like, oh, you know, I'm kind of a little nervous. It's a completely different dynamic that people pick up. If they think you're doing it to play them, there's going to be a negative connotation that they're picking up.
Especially
so
if
you've
they
got to
can
be
read you
careful.
as a guy.
Okay. That can get you in a whole different pile of trouble.
Or other. But anyway, but yeah, one of the things you want to do though is you do want to give it the idea of that more demure, that not aggressive, not assertive. And is this a stereotype?
Yes.
Yeah. Do we all know assertive women?
Yes.
Yeah. But again, if you're trying to play the opposite, you need to hit all of the cues. And once you've mastered that, then you can go in a more natural direction or in a more progressive, you know. But you want to start conservative before you branch out because you want to master the basic cues. You want to get people thinking along those lines without realizing it.
Sorry.
Okay? Before doing that. Another thing is about interacting with other people. We were at an SCA event. It was 12th night. I was dressed as a man. I was in full Elizabethan costume, had my mustache and everything. My hair used to be shorter. I just had my hair naturally, you know, about this long, and it worked very convincingly. I went outside because I was overheated, and there was a woman sitting out there. I didn't even think about it. She's a woman, I'm a woman, we're outside, it's night, no big deal. I came out and she started eyeing me and eyeing the door like how far away, if this is not a nice person, how close am I to the door, if I need help or something. And I went and sat on the bench opposite and said, so how's it going? and I didn't bother changing my voice. And it's, oh, thank God, I thought you were a guy. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm dressed as a guy. No, it's okay. So you need to be aware that you can't approach people the way you would as yourself. Because if I had walked up and sat right next to her, I probably would have scared the crap out of her. Because she would have thought, why is this guy coming out here and, you know, there's all these benches and you're going to sit right in my lap here? And like I said, I had just spaced the fact that I was cross-dressed. So, you know, that's another thing is, if you slip and you forget what you're doing, you're going to freak people out without meaning to. If your choice is to freak people out, that's a whole other category.
We'll talk about voice in a minute, but one time I was at the Renaissance Festival at Xena. Back
Oh God,
when
yes.
Xena came out.
The Renaissance
and
Festival.
I was watching the jousts, and this woman tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around and looked, and she said, "Hi, my daughter is a huge Xena fan. Would you come and talk to her?" Now the thought occurred to me that if I'd walked over and said, "Hi, hon, I'm glad you like Xena." And at the end, right there. So yeah, it does make a difference in terms of making sure that you don't. Now, sometimes that's, let's face it, sometimes that's the fun of crossplay.
Yes.
Okay? And there are countless stories of the guy hitting on what he thinks is the girl, and she goes along until finally she says, "Well, actually, I'm a guy." And the guy freaks, or vice versa. So it depends on what you want, but that is one of the fun aspects of it, is getting away with it only as long as you want to.
My personal philosophy is, I'm doing this to have fun, but if somebody actually started thinking, oh, you're such a nice guy, I'd like to date you, it'd be like, honey, we need to talk for a second. Because I don't want to hurt you. I'm just trying to have fun. I don't want to hurt you by me having fun. So, you know, that's my personal morality, is that's not a nice thing to do. No. But be polite. And if you encounter someone who is cross-dressed, the polite thing to do is to accept them as the gender they're dressed as. Okay? I don't care how bad Bubba in a dress looks. The polite thing is, unless he says, oh yeah, I'm just dressed like this for a bet, you know, I lost. Just, you know, the polite thing is to say, so what am I supposed to, you know, what's your name? And go with that. And if they give you a feminine name, go with feminine pronouns. Just be polite. If, you know, if that's a problem for you, then just avoid them entirely. And you can do that. Just don't throw any pronouns out there. Let's see, what else? Another thing, like you said, oh, Adam's apples.
Yes.
They've got them, we don't. They have to hide them. What we can do is you put, you know, find your neck and swallow a couple times, figure out about where it should be, and then put highlighter, yellow or pink, whatever.
Green always works
Just
real
a little
well.
highlighting, you know, you've got it in your makeup kit, just put a little here, and then very faint contour around just to give the illusion. But again, you don't want to walk around going, because you don't want them going. With guys, there are lots of options. You can use makeup to try to minimize. Some guys simply have an Adam's apple that's like a golf ball stuck out front, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Chokers.
Even so, because every time they swallow, the choker does this. And trust me, I've seen guys with such prominent ones, it doesn't work. But, you know, if that's your issue, I would definitely say if you have a really prominent Adam's apple, you need to start looking at mandarin collars. You need to start looking at costumes that cover this area one way or another. There are a lot of women's fashions where you can take a scarf and wrap it across here, and, you know, have the scarf across here, drape it down your back. That's going to cover the area of problem. Another thing is, for instance, we're not teenagers. So we probably shouldn't be wearing teenage clothing, whether it's our gender or the opposite. Because they're just going to go, why is that old guy in a teenager's dress? Or why is that old lady in a young guy's skateboarding outfit? So another thing to think about is, you know, you don't want to have too many misfires. So if you're trying to misfire your age as well as your gender, it's not going to work. It's just going to be too much for them to accept.
Now,
So, you know.
let me cut in
Go
a
ahead.
little bit. Okay. So I've gone ahead and got dressed, pretty much done my makeup. It was a little quicker than I like to, a little bit more with the eyes. Mascara, guys, is a must.